Day 23. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Rivka Edery. I'm the author of Spatial, Psy.D. And I'm so excited you're back for day 23. Welcome. So everything you built alone. Your own table, your own hands, your own field, and no stake in the outcome beyond your own curiosity, which, as we established on day 21, is the condition under which an instrument can actually be calibrated. Today, day 23, there is a person across the table. And I want to tell you honestly what happens when there is. Every safeguard you have comes under pressure at once, not one at a time. All of them simultaneously from the moment they sit down. Because now there is a face, and a face gives feedback in real time, continuously, whether either of you intends it or not. A slight lean forward, a flicker of recognition, a stillness that was not there a second ago. You will read that face. You cannot not read it. And everything you read from it will bend what you see on the table. That is a technical problem, and it is severe, and most of today is about it. But there is something more important than the technical problem, and I'm going to put it first rather than last, because if you take only one thing from the session, it must be this one. The moment there is another person, this stops being an experiment and becomes an encounter. And an encounter has ethics. You are no longer only responsible for the quality of your records. You are responsible for what happens to someone who trusted you enough to sit down. Before anything technical, the boundary. And I want you to hear that I'm not reciting a disclaimer at you. From the book, Spatial, Psy.D., this is a reflective and intuitive practice. It is not a substitute for medical, psychological, legal, financial, or safety-related advice, and it should never be used to override professional judgment, consent, or direct evidence. When you were reading alone, that sentence was a formality. You skipped it. It protected nobody because the only person in the room was you, and you were not going to act on a geometry sentence. With someone across the table, it becomes the most important line in the book. Because here's what's going to happen sooner or later, and it may be tonight. Someone will sit down, and the thing they actually want to know is whether to leave, whether to take the treatment, whether the lump is nothing, whether to trust the person who's been hurting them. And you will have a layout in front of you, and it will seem to say something. You do not answer those questions, not with a hedge, not with a gentle indication, not by describing the geometry in a tone of voice that lets them draw the conclusion you have declined to state. Not because you might be wrong, though you might be, because it is not what this is. A void in the upper field is a void in the upper field. It is not a medical opinion. It is not evidence about whether someone is safe. And a person in a frightening situation who has come to you because they are frightened is precisely the person most likely to take a piece of geometry and build a decision on it. If someone brings you a question that belongs to a doctor, a lawyer, a therapist, or another professional, your answer is, that is not what this can tell you. And then you help them find the person it belongs to. That is not a limitation of your skill. It is a condition of doing this responsibly and ethically. Now the technical problem, and it is the most serious hazard in the methodology for this entire Spatial Psy.D. course. For 22 days, the table told you nothing while you read it. The cards did not respond. The void did not nod encouragingly. You made your record in silence against a surface that gave you no feedback whatsoever. And that silence is precisely what made your record trustworthy. Tonight, the person tells you whether you are right. Continuously, with every breath, every shift in posture, every flicker across the face, you say, there is something being held at a distance. And they go very still, and you know it. You feel the click. You are on it. And you will steer toward it without deciding to, without any awareness of doing it. This has a name. It is called cold reading. And I want to be extremely careful about how I say the next part. Cold reading does not require you to intend it. It is not fraud. It is what happens automatically to any human being who is speaking to another human being while watching their face. You adjust, you elaborate where they respond, you drop what lands flat. You do this in ordinary conversation all day, and it is a social competence rather than a deception. At this table, it is a catastrophe because it produces exactly the same phenomena as accurate reading. The sitter feels seen. You feel accurate, and the accuracy is manufactured jointly by the two of you in real time out of their responses and your responsiveness. And afterwards, neither of you will be able to tell what happened. You have spent 22 days building an instrument that cannot be bent by your own wanting. Tonight, you're introducing a second person's wanting and yours, and a live feedback loop between them. Everything depends on how you handle that. So what do you do about it? Here is what does not work. Resolving to be objective. Watching yourself carefully. Being a good person and meaning well. None of those touch the problem. And I need you to understand why, because it is the same reason every other safeguard in this method exists. The steering is not conscious. You cannot catch it by paying attention because the part of you that does it is faster than the other part of you that pays attention. By the time you notice yourself adjusting, you have adjusted. An intention cannot defeat an automatic process. Only a structure can. So the defense is structural, and it is exactly the structure you already have. The map freeze, applied one step further. Write the geometry before you speak. The full geometry sentence, distance, cluster, void, isolate, on paper, complete, before a single word is said aloud to the person in front of you. Then freeze it. And then read it aloud from the page, not from their face, from the page. That is the whole defense. And it is almost mechanical. If the words you speak were written before you saw how they landed, they cannot have been shaped by how they landed. It is the same logic as the map, and the same logic as a disconfirmation line, and the same logic as step 0. You have been rehearsing this for 22 days. Tonight, it protects someone other than you. And notice what it costs you. It costs you the fluency. You will not be able to build a smooth, responsive, elegant reading that unfolds in dialogue with their reactions. You will be reading from a page, somewhat awkwardly, saying things that sometimes land flat. Some of what you say will be wrong, and you will have to say it anyway and watch it be wrong. That is not a failure of the method, my friend. That is the method refusing to let you cheat in front of a witness in real time. So what do you actually say? You report the geometry. That is what you have. That is the only thing you have ever had. Something like, there is a tight group here close to you. There is a wide gap. One card is far out on its own, and there's nothing occupying the space between them. Structure, observable, checkable. They can look at the table and see that it is true. And what you do not supply, this is your mother. You are avoiding a decision. Oh, he is coming back. Names, verdicts, futures. You do not have any of those, and you never did. Now, here is the thing that will surprise you, and it is the most important practical discovery of today. The geometry, reported plainly, is often enough. You say, there is something in this situation that is being kept at a distance, deliberately, and nothing is bridging it. And the person across the table goes quiet, and then they tell you what it is. They supply the content, you supply the structure. And that division of labor is not a limitation. It is the honest architecture of what is actually happening. You are not psychic about their life. You have no access to their mother. What you have is a spatial arrangement produced under filtered conditions and a trained eye for what it says structurally. If they recognize something in that structure, that recognition is theirs. It happened in them. And it is worth 100 times more than anything you could have told them because they were not led to it. The moment you start supplying names, you have left the method and started performing. And they will not be able to tell the difference. But you will later when you read your log. Now the thing I most need you to hear, and I'm going to slow down for it. Spatial sight practice often softens the protectors of the mind. The book says so directly. It asks you to slow down, soften your grip on the outcome, and let your body lead. And that is precisely the quality of attention in which the protective parts, the ones that stay busy managing and guarding, are sometimes able to rest. And when they rest, older and more tender material can surface. A memory, a wave of feeling, a sensation that seems to belong to someone other than the cards in front of you. That happens to you alone, and the book tells you what to do. There is nothing wrong and nothing to fix. Now put a person across the table. The same softening happens to them, and they did not sign up for it, and they may not be ready for it, and you are not their therapist. So sometimes in the middle of a reading, someone will begin to cry or go very still in a way that is not recognition, or start telling you something that they have not told anyone. Here's what you do. You stop reading. Not you read more gently. Not you use a geometry to help them process it. You stop. You put the cards down. You are a person in a room with another person who is having a hard moment. And that is all you are. And that is enough. Your job is not to read it deeper. Your job is to stop reading. And I want to be very clear about the temptation because it will be strong and it will feel like compassion. When something opens up in someone and you have a layout in front of you that seems to speak to it, you will want to go further in, to name it, to offer them the reading as an explanation of their own pain. Do not. You have a spatial arrangement of cards. They have a life and a history you know nothing about, and something has just been touched in them. Those are not small things, and the fact that they arrived at the same moment does not make one the key to the other. Put the cards down. Ask if they want to stop, and if what has surfaced is beyond what a conversation between two people can hold, help them find someone whose actual job it is. That is not the reading failing. That is you being a decent person, which outranks the reading, obviously.